Good afternoon. My name is Alan Nochumson of Nochumson PC. Nochumson PC is a real estate and business boutique law firm in Center City, Philadelphia. And one of the things that we do is we represent a lot of restaurants in town. You know, we represent Cooking Solo, 13th Street Kitchens, amongst other restaurant groups. And I thought that this would be a good way to kind of like have Angela and Cliff here because they created this playbook on how the restaurant industry can survive and thrive during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, Angela, Cliff, thank you so much for joining us. And why don't you introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive right into the discussion.
Sure. So I'm Angela Vendetti. I actually know both Alan and Cliff through Fairmount. I lived in Fairmount for almost 20 years and just recently moved, but I still work in Philadelphia, and I work with restaurants, breweries, and cafes on the startup process. So project managing that whole process, getting them open, finding the right location, the financing. And then if they're already existing, I help them with profitability. So looking at primarily controlling their prime costs, their cost of goods and their labor costs, and managing that week to week to improve their net profit margin. And then I also work with them on quality of life. So these are all things that I learned in my 12 years running a coffee house and catering business, which had 5 locations that I sold at the end of 2015. So I've been working with folks since the beginning of 2016. And Cliff and I know each other through GAMBA, through the Business Association in Fairmount. And we do a lot of work together. So Cliff, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Cliff Ross. I have an ad agency, design studio, and print shop location in Brewery Town and in Easton, Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley. So we have 2 offices, and we're a little unique because it's for both an ad agency and a print shop. So we vertically integrated to be able to print stuff for people. And we work with a lot of restaurants and also food producers and also the Easton Public Market, Easton Farmers Market. So we kind of almost by accident got to just focus with clients like that. So we do a lot of those, great business, and the team here, could we do the printing, the design, the advertising, for a one-stop shop for most restaurants and these food producers. And the Easton Public Market is like a smaller version of the Reading Terminal Market. Pretty successful and stuff, and we've helped them adapt. They all do curbside now, so everything from signage to getting the messaging out and that type of thing. So I have a team of 3 other designers and people that help with the printing and finishing, do everything in-house. And we're really good at working like, here's a real solution, not a cookie cutter solution, because especially with restaurants, every single business is different. And Angie and I have worked with Fergie at Fergie's Pub, the Goat, the Fairview. Bunch of restaurants here in downtown Easton, and just downtown Easton experienced the same thing that Philadelphia did with Old City. It was a restaurant renaissance right around 2010 or 11 that just took the city to the next level. It was almost like nobody wanted to come here. It was that kind of thing, a real bad reputation. So I started my business in 2010, so I've been along that ride the whole time. And like I said, very similar to when Continental popped up in Old City and that whole thing happened. So that's my background.
So I guess the first question I'm going to ask you guys, because I live in the Fairmont area, how you pronounce Bar Hugie? Is it Hugie, Higgy? Because I know one of you represent them. So I was like, I love that place, but I don't know how to pronounce it. I love their beer. I can't pronounce their name.
That's the challenge. Huga.
Huga.
Yeah, Bar Huga. Which I was actually in Copenhagen a couple years ago, and the tour guide, we went on one of the walking tours, and he used that phrase and explained it. Because apparently there's no direct translation in English, but yeah, that's a great spot.
All right, with all seriousness, you guys created a playbook, and I was really impressed. I was really impressed with like the thoughtfulness and the that you were comprehensive in thinking about the issues. Angela, your experience as a restaurant owner, and Cliff, it seems like you do a lot of marketing for restaurants. So I thought this would be a great discussion. And, Angela, we talked before, we'll go through the playbook. And I guess the first thing is why did you create it in the first place?
Sure. I'm just going to share my screen just so you guys can see what the playbook looks like. So this is just the front cover here. But, basically, you know, we were sort of going through everything along with everybody else, like what the hell is going on right now? Seeing that there really wasn't a whole lot of national leadership, just kind of like, you know, abdicating to the governors, and I just kind of put my owner hat on. I was like, if I still had a brick and mortar business, what would I be doing right now? And so at first I compiled a list of, you know, all of the grants and the economic relief programs and loans and all of that. And I compiled that list and I shared that with my clients, and, you know, helped them, you know, start the applications. And, you know, we had no idea what was going to happen, how long this was going to last. And then started to look at what other countries were doing, you know, as they were coming out of the shutdown and into reopening. And then, you know, and then we saw, like, as we were getting ready, so reached out to Cliff, saw that Cliff was helping folks with all the signage, and like I said, we work together. He does like menu printing and all that kind of stuff. And we thought it would be a really great collaboration to actually design and print this playbook. But right before we were ready to launch it was when New Orleans opened. And that's where, you know, we kind of changed a couple things, because we were looking at what South Korea was doing, what Hong Kong was doing, and we were like, I don't know if contact tracing is really going to go over well here. And then we saw that New Orleans was doing it, and we're like, all right, let's put it in there, because if your ultimate goal here is to prevent another outbreak and another shutdown and minimize the impact to your business, this is really what we should all be doing, and trying to get everybody on the same page so that we're all doing the same thing, so that expectations from customers are aligned. I thought was really important too. You don't want to go to one place where everybody's sitting next to each other and nobody's wearing masks and people pretending like nothing's wrong, and then go to another place where they're, you know, checking your temperature, asking you to make a reservation ahead of time, and feel like you're being snubbed, right? So that's kind of where we started with everything. And then what we did is we came up with 10 re-entry principles. I'm just going to scroll down to that. This was actually a really good quote that we included in the book by Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that's most adaptable to change. And of course, you probably have all seen some folks take this opportunity to retire, right? There are like some people that are just like, I don't want to deal with this. It's just time to go. But you know, if you don't have that option, you better change so that you can remain in business. And so these were the top 10 reentry principles that we came up with. So safety, keeping your staff and your guests healthy, communication, and this is really where Cliff's team comes in. So, you know, you got to get together, establish your new protocols, but communicating that to both your guests and making sure that your staff is on board with everything is really important. Compliance, so there are some government guidelines, but you know, staying current on all those regulations and requirements, I think going above and beyond that is more important, but certainly you don't want to have any legal issues, and Alan, I'm sure you can talk more about that too. Authenticity, so as you're going into this, you know, this is a big part of leadership too, is just making sure that you really believe that what you're doing, and that what you're doing is for the greater good. Of course, it's for your own livelihood, but it is also for, you know, everyone collectively. Like Philadelphia will get shut down, not just your business, and so on. So adapting. So this is, we don't know. I mean, we were just talking about before everybody got on the call, you know, when we move to yellow to green, even when we're in green, we're still not back to normal, right? So how can you adapt in the meantime and figure out new ways to generate revenue? We also thought it was important to be really unique. So you really want to be able to set yourself apart. And this is, you know, you do that through your marketing. Training, making sure your staff is carrying out all of your new cleaning procedures and protocols to a T. Technology is your friend. So I think, you know, before this, just like using Zoom, people are now really used to ordering food online for curbside pickup. And I don't think that's going to go away. This almost forced people to get used to that technology. And so if you haven't already done it, you need to get that implemented, because that'll really help diversify your revenue there. Talk to your team. Everybody's got ideas, so tapping into your team's creativity to be innovative, I think is really a great idea, just for everybody involved. And then being prepared. So you want to develop a strong curbside option. You want to make sure that you get all these protocols in place, and as we'll talk about a little bit more later, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's really going to be customized to your business and your floor layout, and how many people are on your team, and all of that. Are you fine dining? Are you quick service? This is all going to play into the plan to reopen.
All right, so we were talking about different color schemes. We were talking about yellow, and we're currently in yellow. We're in Philadelphia. We're currently in yellow. And right now, my understanding is that the restaurants are allowed to have curbside pickup and, delivery. But, starting June 12th, my understanding is that they're going to allow some type of outdoor seating. So really the focus here is not just what we can do today, but really what we can do either, June 12th. And we were talking even before today's discussion, about turning to green, right? Where there's different allowances as well, right? So I'm a restaurant owner. I'm preparing to get to June 12th to allow some eat-in capabilities. What do I do if I wanted to start making real money on June 12th?
Right. And I'm going to let Cliff step in a second, but I just want to say, again, establishing protocols specific to your business is going to be really important. Mm-hmm. So it's going to depend on your menu, your square footage, the layout, how your restrooms are, like if you have single use or if you have stalls. You're going to need to analyze your steps of service, right? And then make adjustments to those steps of service. And what you're going to realize is that there's a significant cost to this. You're going to have increased cleaning costs. If your menus are probably going to go to, single-use menus that, are disposable. So you've got that cost, other signage, packaging. So, you're going to need single-use condiments. They're not going to let you have condiments on the table. There's no creamer station if you're a coffee shop. You're going to have increased labor because you're going to need somebody to be cleaning stuff regularly, and also kind of keeping an eye on what people are doing. A lot of customers, I was just talking to Brotherly Grub the other day. She's got her meat costs have gone up quite a bit because the people in the meat packing plants are sick and they're just not producing as much, right? So supply is down and cost is up. And you've also got this reduced capacity for the foreseeable future. So your next step is really to get those protocols in place depending on your business, create a budget, and you're probably going to have to adjust your menu pricing a little bit. Then you're going to need to train your staff. This isn't just hey guys, we're going to be open on Friday. You need to have them come in and really talk through this, let them ask questions. Again, be confident in the decisions that you've made and the new protocols that you have in place. Your staff isn't going to take it seriously if you don't.
All right, well, let's go and Cliff, obviously we're going to talk about how to market oneself in this economy, but I want to focus first on the practicality of you're open up for business, and as a restaurant owner, and by the way, as a customer, how do you feel confident that you're going to be in a place where you're not going to get sick? So from a training perspective, and just by the way of how you're going to change the configuration of your space, Angela, right? So training, what are the employees going to look like who are going to be working there? Masks, hand gloves, sanitizing part of it. What are the things that we're going to expect as a restaurant owner and as a consumer about what that's going to look like?
Right. So I really think that owners should take it upon themselves to take temperatures, especially for the staff, and exclude people from the operation if their temperature is above 100.4. That is not, that's not a recommendation. It's a recommendation, but it's not a requirement, right? From the state of Pennsylvania anyway. But, you know, seeing that everybody's wearing a mask, you know, even gloves on the bartender aren't necessarily a requirement, but like if you're trying to put out visual cues to make people feel safe, right? This is like part of that curb appeal. Like everything has to look a certain way. So from the time you walk through the door, you know, what does your entrance look like? Like it better be swept up outside, no fingerprints on the door, even though you might be sanitizing the handles and everything, it all has to look clean. Your staff needs to look presentable. Remember that a mask doesn't work over a beard. So you're going to have to talk to your staff about facial hair.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask Cliff to jump in a little bit just on what he's been doing. Cause he's been working with clients all along here on getting ready when it comes to printing menus and signage and stuff like that. And I thought he could give us some examples there.
And that kind of goes hand in hand with this training of the staff, and then you have the proper signage. And we've been doing signage, and it doesn't need to look garish. It doesn't need to look like utilitarian. We've done a lot to match the brand of the restaurant. And we've done just explaining from direction flow to what's permitted, what's off limits, as far as the outdoor dining goes. And, you know, I saw some places in downtown Easton that just printed out like a sign on 8.5 by 11 from their printer. It looked awful. Like people, if they see a legit signage and it looks good, they're going to see, okay, this place is on top of it. Like you kind of need to go above and beyond in that regard. So the signage is a huge deal as far as making people feel comfortable and understand what's going on, because everything is totally new. So as you can see, Angie pulled up, we have the floor decals. These are generic ones we made, but we've made ones that, like I said, match the branding, the colors of other places, especially directional stuff. And this is going to make it easier for the staff. They're not going to need to explain everything or stop somebody or whatever. A big one too, reservations required or not required, where to wait. You know, there's a whole plethora of stuff that you would need to do, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. The bathroom signage. And again, I would discourage anybody from just printing some stuff out of Word and hanging it up. It just looks amateurish, and this is a time where people are paying extra attention to this kind of thing. And like I said, it helps with the staff. And even too, we can do we can do a custom playbook for your staff, because every single restaurant is so different in terms of the layout and the staff and the management and everything. That's something custom that they read, that they sign it for compliance, because you just to make sure everybody's on the same page and carrying it through. They're not slacking in any regard.
Yeah, so like with the signage, like you said, one size does not fit all, right? So it's like where the signage, not just what it says, but where it's actually placed is important. Like, you know, where it's placed, you know, to give the customers an understanding of what they need to do in terms of waiting, and the employees what they need to do in terms of serving the customers. So Angela, what about the configuration of the restaurants? Like, how is that going to change? Say I go into X restaurant, I go to Bar Hugie? Huga. I'm never gonna get it right. Like June 12th, I want my lemon meringue like IPA. Like, what am I going to see at Bar Huga?
So, I mean, that's a great question. So when you step in there, you know, they have a lot of booth seating, which is great because you've got that physical barrier with the booth seating. But I would imagine, because you walk in and the bar is right there. And so what I'm recommending people do is pull the chairs from the bar, because obviously that implies self-seating, and you're going to want to have control over where people are seating or sitting. So if you've got, you know, a party of 2 at one end of the bar, you're going to want 3 chairs between the next party. And so figure out, you can either tape the chairs off, or you can put the chairs up as you seat people. They may also want to put plexiglass up. So they do have a host stand in there as well. So you might want to put plexiglass up. Obviously the staff is wearing masks, so maybe that's not quite necessary. But they might want signage on the floor, letting people know where to wait for pickup orders. So assuming that they are still doing a good curbside pickup business, you know, you probably want to go in one direction to tell, you know, to wait for your order, go in the other direction to ask to be seated. And they do have outdoor seating there too. So you'll probably see them instead of, they'll have like every other table seated for the time being until, as long as it's 6 feet apart.
So do you recommend of your restaurant owners that they just like someone like me just walks in to start eating, or like what recommendations would you make?
I do recommend using a reservation system if you're full service. Obviously, coffee shops are not going to be doing that. But if you're full service, I would recommend a reservation system. It really can help you space out the parties. But it's really important to communicate that. You're going to need to put that in your social media, on your website, on the front door, that we're not taking walk-ins right now. Please call us, or, go online to our website to reserve your table. But that'll really help space things out better. And also keep track of people. So if you need to contact people because somebody was actually sick that day, and for contact tracing, like you want to be able to tell people to go get tested so that they can stay at home if they're actually infected.
So Cliff, that's what I was going to ask you from a marketing standpoint, Cliff, like how are you recommending you market that in terms of allowing people in the restaurants?
Right. And again, it doesn't have to be you can make it fun and acceptable. It doesn't have to be too like strict and things like that. So we've done like suites of graphics kind of illustrating, whether you're with illustrations or nice graphics or again with branding, here's the new procedure, and making it seem a little more normal rather than kind of scary, So in terms of marketing it, definitely with the signage and the social media is the best way, because everybody's on social media even more now. Of course, get the same stuff on your website, and for people that do e-blasts, getting it in there. So really it's any avenue you can. And most of those are inexpensive to do or free as far as that goes. And everybody's looking at that. I think some people are obviously, if that's all got to be clearly on your site, because I think some people that are more hesitant to go out want to see, okay, what is this restaurant doing that's different? And one little minor thing with the configuration and the setup is for some places we made signage that some dining may be limited to 75 minutes. Not absolutely, but so they know, hey, you're gonna have to wrap it up as normally you would. You could sit there for 2 hours if you wanted, but that's critical with the flow, working with the configuration. And on the other side, some places are not doing reservations because they're just doing walk up when your whole party's here, you're seated, because the outdoor space. If you have the outdoor space where people can hang out or chill for a little bit and then seat them, I think there's an argument for either one of those. And again, it depends on your space and your configuration, but I think either could work, and we're seeing both of those options work.
Yeah, actually, Cliff, you make an excellent point about the fact of limiting the dining experience to a time frame, because I guess yellow is 50% capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So if you only have 50% capacity and you have loiterers who are like sipping a beer, right? At a table, and how it goes, everyone's like just waiting to pay the bill, and they're talking, but these restaurant owners need to make money, and they need to turn around their tables reasonably quick.
Right. And just to be clear, yellow is 50% capacity outside.
Yeah.
Green is still 50% capacity, but inside.
That's right. And then And then green is, I thought, 75% capacity outside, right?
You know what? I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, but that would make sense, especially since outside is supposedly safer, open air.
Right.
That's right. So, but am I going to just be able to walk into the bar? Like we were talking about taking temperatures and employees, like, are we taking temperatures of customers too?
I think people should. I mean, certainly if they're showing any symptoms, you need to be able to exclude them from your operation. And think about that. Like, you can't just have a high school kid at your front door anymore, right? You really need to think about the person that is your gatekeeper, that is handling these potentially sensitive situations and having to tell somebody that they can't come in. They're kind of your gatekeeper. So they need to have the customer service skills necessary to say no nicely, to be able to handle the situation with grace. And then this person can also be responsible for making sure people are seated 6 feet apart. To your point, like, can you just walk into the bar? I would say everybody needs to stop there, check in, and be seated. And that's why I would recommend not putting any seats at the bar, because that sort of indicates that you can seat yourself. So being able to say, okay, it's just, it's just one of you or two of you, you sit here, and pulling the chairs up and making sure there's space in between. And, for some places, this is going to be really difficult. There's a lot of like casual pubs where people go in by themselves to socialize, right? So, and think about that. Like, it's still not going to be a comfortable environment for that kind of interaction. So you really need to think again about that diversification of your business, of your revenue streams.
So you've heard of the phrase, the customer is always right. So I walk in, I'm coughing, I don't look like I'm in the best shape possible. I may be sick. Like, what happens under that scenario?
Right. I mean, you need to tell them that they're not allowed in and you're sorry and you'd love to welcome them back another time, and that they should really be home and not out in public. It's unfortunately, this is, I think the reality with like the salons and the restaurants. Like, the reason why this reopening is taking longer is because you can't sit and eat and drink with a mask on. Like, the mask needs to come off at some point, and that's where the risk of infection occurs. And I don't know if everybody read the same article I did about, they traced the infection from a restaurant. And it was everything to do with where the infected person was sitting, and all of the people that were downwind from the air conditioner that was on and blowing at them. So that's another thing to think about. Like, are your air conditioning vents blowing directly on people? Maybe you want to put them up a little bit so that you're not carrying the infection as quickly. But that's why the inside is, being phased in.
And Alan, to your point too about the customer, that's why you have to have clear signage right there at the host or hostess stand to say, hey, sorry, here's the rules, pointing to it. And again, moving the hostess or host stand outside. Like Angie used the perfect term, gatekeeper. Like, you got to have somebody on there that's on point, that can handle anything that comes up, and just telling people what to do, because it's not going to be just walking in like it used to be.
So I think signage is key there. It protects the employees, but it also sounds like there has to be some training of situations like this, where if someone is over 100.4 temperature, if someone overstays their welcome, you gotta give certain cues, right, to your employees in terms of
right.
Okay.
Right. We actually talked with Ed Doherty and Maria Campbell from 1 Degree Coaching when we were putting this together, and they do a lot of leadership training, and they coined a phrase, safety is the new hospitality, right? Instead of the customer is always right. So coming from the customer is always right to now, safety is the new hospitality. We really liked that, and we included it in the book because I think that's really the case here. You really owe it to your staff to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to make sure that they're safe. You owe it to your customers. And just think about, we're seeing things break down, I think, along political lines, along, the under 40, over 40 age range, right? So you don't want the under 40, or the 20 something crowds coming in and making everybody else uncomfortable. That's not going to work. Like, they still spend money that night, but the next night you're not going to see half of the crowd there because they didn't feel safe because you weren't doing everything that you could. So again, this is really about your livelihood and about not collectively, like, if we're all doing everything that we can to not get shut down again.
So again, it goes to signage, right?
Yeah, signage is great. And it is a great, as Cliff said, a great crutch for your staff to be able to point to it. Like, these are rules, And
it sets up expectations. And I would think that if you do a reservation, would there be an email, like maybe going to the customer saying, here's our ground rules in a nice way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can set up Open Table for that. So that there's messages about, whatever your policies are, cancellations, wearing a mask, being on time, that your reservation is only going to be held for 75 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever.
All right. So I made let's say I'm a responsible party. I make my reservation. I walk into bar Higgy.
Hygge.
I used to call it Hygge all the time until I learned.
Hygge. All right, Hygge. And can I bring my whole block for a reservation? Am I going to be limited how many people I'm going to bring?
Cliff, do you have information on that?
Yeah, a lot of people we've seen had set up like 2 tops, 4 tops, and then a few for a party of 6. And I think that's how they were booking the reservations. So if they had a couple parties of 6, those tables were taken. That was it. But the majority that I've seen, and from what I've worked with, it was 2 or 4 seaters at the most.
Yeah, I think the guidelines from Pennsylvania are that it's parties of no more than 6. But you can see, like, you can sort of identify, like, okay, these people are walking in together, they're from the same household, they're not, but like if one party, over here gets up and like comes over and wants to sit down, that's where you might need that person. Remember that extra person you need to hire to walk over and say, hey guys, I need you to remain at your tables. And that's,
Configuration is key too. I mean, your restaurant might be set up that you'd have a private room that there could be a party of 10, or you can make it set up in such a way that they can't, whether with barriers or curtains or whatever, that they kind of have to go with the flow and that type of thing. And I think,
I love the curtains and the tents. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but there was a restaurant in Amsterdam that had these beautiful tents around every table that were clear. And then of course, I'm sure everybody's seen it. I've seen it at the post office, putting the clear shower curtains as a barrier, which might work as well if you have really limited space.
So I come in, I go to the hostess, I assume I go to the hostess table, check myself in, I walk to the table. Am I wearing a mask?
Yeah.
And also, some places have masks on hand in case you don't have one. So problem solved, you don't have to go back to your car or whatever, they don't have to turn you away. Have your masks on hand for people till they get seated.
All right, so I'm seated at a table with my friends, and what am I seeing at the table? Am I seeing like condiments, salt shakers, pepper shakers?
No, you're not going to see any of that. Maybe a bottle of hand sanitizer. If you didn't bring one, I would recommend that the restaurants provide it. You can take off your masks once you're at the table. Of course, when you stand up to go use the restroom, you're going to put your mask back on. We suggested, maybe restaurants want to provide an envelope for you to put your mask in while you're eating. And then we also have vendors who are doing custom printed masks. So, if you are going to be giving masks out, especially if you're in a downtown like East End or in Center City, Philadelphia, I think that's a great idea to have your brand on the front of the mask so that people leaving your place. So
it doesn't have to look, again, scary. Like you can have a cool mask, branded mask for your staff, have some fun with it. So that's the world we're in. I suggest going in that direction. Again, people feel more comfortable and it don't feel like it's so serious if they had a surgical mask on.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about utensils? Like, are utensils already there? How are they set out?
So I believe like you can have your presets if the silverware is rolled, right? So if you have and again, this goes back to your brand. Like, do you, are you sit down dining, full service? Would you normally have silverware there as opposed to disposable? You want to make sure it's rolled so that if somebody walking by coughs, like they're not coughing on your silverware. And you could even, go a step further and roll that napkin in some, plastic that they can then remove when they sit down. Or you can get the single-use disposable utensils that come already wrapped. And again, here's where your increased costs come in. You're not going to have a ketchup bottle. You're going to have single-use packets of ketchup that the server brings to you when you ask for it. Or, they can, dispense it back in the kitchen and it comes out on your plate. So again, I think, depending on your brand, you might want to do one or the other. Either way, you're going to have additional packaging costs.
So how do I order my food?
Cliff, do you want to talk about menus?
Well, sure. And so menus, there's some options. We have waterproof paper, which is pretty cool. We used it for menus a lot before, but this is something you can disconnect. costs more to do those. We also have an option, and other printers too, eco-friendly paper. Our cheapest paper is eco-friendly and sustainably sourced. And you can even print that on the menu at the bottom. Small customers will feel good about that. Oh, you got to throw it away after one use, but at least the business is making the right choice. And it's super cheap to do, to print those. So the menus, and then there's also the ordering, whether it be online, and digressing a little bit, but for like curbside pickup, you know, you can set it up so that when they place an order online, that ticket prints out through your POS system and you fulfill the thing. That could even be done at the table. If you want to get creative, someone on their phone could place order, not even touch a menu. You know, again, it depends what your place is like, what your menu's like, what your customers are like. But that, you know, people are already acclimated to buying stuff online and they already have their phone out anyway, looking at Instagram probably. So for them to order off that, there's also, for one restaurant, we were discussing just having a whole clear plexi on top of a print that the whole table is the menu. Kind of fun. And you could have other branding things on there. So it's just one thing. You don't have to print it over and over, and you can see it through the plexi. So again, this is an opportunity to innovate and get creative with how you used to work.
Yeah, and then you could go old school, like the diners when you get the laminated menus, right?
Right, exactly. That's going to be cool again. But too, also we mentioned in the book, if your space is configured as such, the menu on the wall, right? You know, everybody look at it, see, you don't have to worry about anything in that regard. So there's a lot of options, and this is a more cost-effective, there's more cost-effective solutions for this. And then you can keep these in place, even when things are fine, the online ordering from the table. Like this doesn't need to change when things get better, you know? Yeah. And then you're prepared if something comes to happen.
So when you say POS, point of sales, you can potentially set up on your website where people can just order at the tables. Maybe they have like a code that's for them, right? And then they can just order the food and it comes out.
Absolutely, yeah. So that could serve either someone at home ordering for takeout or someone sitting at the table. Ticket prints out right in the kitchen. I mean, it would be seamless. And I think, you know, it's kind of would be, I think, novel for some people. I mean, I think some of the chains are doing this anyway. They had the tablet at the, like TGI Fridays or whatever, tablet at the table, or Pizza Hut, you click and order. So you can make it fun. It doesn't need to be cumbersome.
Yeah, I was at a sports bar in King of Prussia. I think they had online ordering. They had like a little like computer set up that was like, you know, that you can touch, and like we ordered. Obviously, you would have to keep it clean, just like you would have to if you reuse the menus, right? Like the plexi, like the ones that are laminated, you have to like wash them down. You can't reuse the paper ones, right?
Right, exactly. So there are a lot of options.
I just want to interject my own personal opinion about laminated menus. If you're going to use them, like I would want to see it being sanitized, disinfected before I sit down, like before it's handed to me. Like I want to see that it's clean. And I would say, like, I mean, I was kind of skeeved out by them to begin with. So you definitely want to make sure you've got, like, you know, you might want to just have wipes, like right where, you know, you're grabbing the menus from, and just kind of wipe them down, you know, as you're seating people, if that's the direction you want to go, if you don't want to go with the single use. And I totally get it. I mean, the single use is a lot of waste, but if it is sustainably sourced and you can recycle it, you know, it might be a good option. But
Angie, we've talked a lot about that people think it's cheaper to print them in-house. It actually isn't, because if you're printing hundreds or even thousands, that toner you're buying is so expensive compared to going to a traditional printer and getting 1,000 or 2,000 of them at a clip.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you guys touched on this, like if you haven't invested in technology yet for online ordering or contactless payment, like now's the time to do it. You really need to figure that out. You got to get your systems integrated. I was just talking to a client the other day. They're doing one night a week for curbside pickup, and she's spending essentially all day Tuesday running payments manually and taking orders and processing them manually. It's craziness.
And if you're already using Square or some of these payment platforms, that comes with free hosting and a website builder to get your online. So you're already halfway there. I know web stuff is daunting, even for us in the business that do it, it's a headache, but
right.
A lot of good solutions via Square, some of the other places, you can get up and running pretty quickly. And this
I know Yasmin Dolan is on the call from Heartland, and I need to plug that because I recommend that hands down over Square, Heartland Restaurant POS, just because it is processor agnostic. So you can make the bank and the processor, Heartland, compete for the processing costs. And then the system itself is it's just a pleasure to work with. They set up all the programming. There's live day support. Compared to Square, you really don't have anybody to talk to. So I do recommend that. And you can use the iPads that you already have if you already have Square or something else that's running on a tablet system.
So I know myself, as I grow older, I have to go to the bathroom at least once during any time I go out to dinner or go to a bar. So how is that going to be accomplished? Because like now I'm thinking, okay, first I got to put my mask back on, right?
Yeah.
Then secondly, I'm going to go to the bathroom, but you know how there's always a line at the bathroom. And then I'm thinking I'm going to the bathroom that someone already else went. So how can I make sure it's clean?
Right. So I think this again goes back to like every space is unique. So for my clients that have maybe a restroom with 2 or 3 stalls, I'm telling them just put a lock on the door and make it one at a time. You're going to need somebody. Now, you don't need to sanitize the entire bathroom after each use, but as frequently as possible, right? So this is where your additional labor comes into play, your additional costs on cleaning products and stuff like that. If you've got a restroom with like 8 stalls, and you need like more than just one person at a time, right? Like even with half capacity, you're going to have a line probably for the restroom. That's where maybe you could, close off, a few in the middle and have a couple on the end that can be in use at the same time. The risk with the restrooms is in the flushing. So when you flush the toilet, if someone's infected, those droplets go into the air. So personally, I'm not going into that restroom. Right? Like I'm going to wait until no one's in there. Right. But as you're waiting in line, there should be, decals on the floor. And I think Cliff, you've done some of those for your clients, for 6 feet apart, and the decals are going to last longer than if you try to tape it yourself. It's going to look nicer.
Yeah. We do laminate non-slip, so it lasts a long time. And also too, signage, just like the existing signage that's in the bathrooms, employees must wash hands. Even that signage, again, saves time. Explaining something on the door, how it works, how many people inside, and don't just like put duct tape, close off a stall, little signage. I mean, again, it could either look like you're in a war zone or you can make it look nice and branded and people feel comfortable. And again, save the staff. I mean, this is a no-brainer for signage. The staff doesn't need to repeat the rules and all this kind of stuff. And this, I think, of all things, people truly understand, like, yeah, this is where I can, just like getting in an elevator. It's an incubator for germs. So people would appreciate, I think, the rules that apply to this, unless they're totally drunk.
Gotcha. So I'm finally done with dinner, right? Like, how are you recommending your restaurant owners to accept payment?
So again, I mean, technology is your friend here. I would say no cash. Now, of course, in Philadelphia, they just recently passed a bill that that was discriminatory. I don't know if they've changed their mind in light of COVID, but I would definitely not let anybody be dealing with cash. And if you can make the payment from your seat, even better, right? So like, if you don't have that technology set up and you're still taking cards, you can always, use a piece of tissue paper or wax paper to pick up the card and handle the card and hand it back. You could get pens printed with your, with the name of your restaurant and your website to plug your new curbside pickup. And just hand them a pen and let them take it home. So as much as you can do to reduce the contact, I think makes the most sense.
Yeah, and I would think receipts too. You probably would limit giving receipts, probably take email addresses or cell phone number.
Yeah, yep.
By the way, that's a great way of capturing people, right, Cliff? Like from a marketing standpoint?
Absolutely, and even on the receipt, how you can customize it with stuff and then email that to them. Absolutely. And that's what it is. There's no one thing to do. It's all these little things together.
Yeah. All right. So obviously the restaurants have limitations. Even in Yellowface, starting June 12th, in terms of outdoor seating, about like, being able to do curbside pickup or deliveries. Like, are you making any other recommendations to restaurant owners in terms of other revenue streams that they can kind of work on?
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously, I really think the curbside pickup isn't going anywhere. Now that people have gotten used to doing it, they're going to continue to want to do it even after things are back to normal, right? So, definitely setting up the technology so that is ready to go. The other things that we're recommending is expanding your retail. So if there's anything that you make in-house that you can package, a sauce, a jam, of course, in Center City, they were doing the cocktails to go, which was kind of cool. Meal kits. There's a pizza place in Lambertville, New Jersey that's doing frozen pizzas. So he's, instead of being open for regular pickup, he's making his pizzas on one day, freezing them, and then just having one day for pickup. Maybe that's something you can incorporate, is just having frozen meals to take home. Party trays. So if you're not already doing that kind of stuff, you had a lot of big events that were canceled, graduations, weddings, and people are just trying to do something at home in lieu of that. And so if you can fill a gap there, and then branded merchandise. So we were talking about printed pens, printed masks, printed t-shirts, pint glasses, all of those things, you can get branded and sell as well.
And one thing too that we do a lot of even before this is package products that you make. You make a good hot sauce, you have a good mixer, whatever it might be, but the packaging has your brand on it. They take it home with them. It's on their table when they're using it. So there's so many, and you don't want to come up with something that doesn't make sense. This makes perfect sense. People could take a piece of your restaurant home with them. And you can have any number of things. Like I said, we have a barbecue place we work with. They have 3 different sauces, all branded. They sell like crazy. Now what we're doing for Father's Day, it's a gift pack, and he's buying a few grilling accessories. You get all 3 with this grilling accessories. Here's your Father's Day gift. So it's really challenging the assumptions of what you're doing as a restaurant. You do kind of have to have a retail component. And then also, you can't get this stuff anywhere else. It's not like you can go on Amazon and buy this guy's barbecue sauce. It's the only place you can get it. So and that you could diversify a whole line of products, from the condiments to drink mixes, hot sauces, whatever it might be. But it's easy to do. And then you have the branded label. They're printed. You can get good, nice containers, a Fillmore container. You're already making this stuff, and you sell it, and at a premium as well, because you're going to need to replace the lost revenue from other areas. So that's a big one that we do, and it's very successful and easy to get off the ground.
Yeah, we have 2 clients, 13th Street Kitchens. Like, they've always sold their own barbecue hot sauce. So, again, if you go on their website, that, to your point, there's, you can sell that merchandise. And then we actually represent Cook and Solo, like Laser Wolf. We actually ordered from Laser Wolf recently. It's an Israeli grilling restaurant and grill restaurant, and they cooked it, like, they marinated everything, and then we picked it up, and then we got a video from Mike Salmanoff on how to finish it off, like how to barbecue it.
That's cool.
And, yeah, so like those are the creative ways of getting there. Hey, another one of their restaurants, Sahab, right? How hard is it to get in there? One of the things they did was, okay, we're gonna make the food, right? And you can pick it up. And now it's actually easier in some ways to get in Zahav. You get the food, you don't get the dining experience, but you get the food. And to some people that's great. And then, it's cheaper for some of the consumers, right? The customers. I'll get the food and I'll pay for my own alcohol, which is a lot cheaper at home, right?
Right.
Exactly. So, and yeah, I think with the Laser Wolf one, was it Laser Wolf? Or we did Mercaz too, which is a restaurant of theirs. They gave us a recipe. They gave us a syrup for the recipe, like an alcoholic drink. They made their own syrup. We put some seltzer water and we put some alcohol, and all of a sudden we had a nice cocktail.
That's great.
So, now, Cliff, is there any other like advertising, like that, one can do as a restaurant operator? Like, what are you focusing on for your clients to get people focused on them?
Well, like I said, the social media is a great outlet. The downside to that is everybody's on there now trying to push their store, their product, their business, or the personal stuff. So it can get lost. So we've been actually spending some money on social media in terms of advertising. But I do warn, if you're going to do that, you really got to dig into it or have a professional, because it's easy. Yeah, you can easily click that boost button, but you might be boosting it to the whole country because you didn't set it up right. So social media is a great way to go. Also, engaging your existing clients. Everyone's always thinking, how do we get new business? But engaging existing clients. So if you have that mailing list or the email list or whatever to do that. Also, like for Fairview, what we're doing, since it's right there, there's a lot of residents right in that zip code. We picked the zone in the zip code because there's the condos there. Just get it out to the neighborhood. If that's your kind of place, direct mail works even better because there's so much fewer mail, whereas you so much more online. So you can really laser focus on it, not even the whole zip code, just the zone within it. Get your neighbors in there. It's convenient for them. They already know about you. Plus, there's the four walls marketing. When they're there, you have a captive audience. Market to them so they have a reason to come back or to tell their friends, hey, I went there. They're doing this new, this different. So I would say, especially since resources are tight, focus on your existing customers to have them keep coming back and spread the word. So there's those different things. I mean, and I got to stress, you're not going to be able to do it just on making a few posts on social media alone. I see a lot of people think that's the answer and have everything on there, but a mix of traditional stuff, like some of the targeted direct mail, the four walls marketing, and that type of thing. And even you can get some press. If you're doing something truly creative, different, get a press release out there, so there's those types of things. And I think the restaurant business is going to be even more competitive now. The weaker hands are going to be flushed out for sure, but the ones that are still in business, it's going to be even more intense because everything is so different. So it's really having a concerted effort. Don't just say, hey, let's send an e-blast and hopefully we have a busy weekend. And slow and steady wins the race. Be consistent with messaging and being out there positioned in people's minds, especially since they're going to be thinking about the green, going into green and going to be able to dine again. So when it's green, they already know I'm going there. Like they want to go there. Start teasing it now. Start educating now. So all those different platforms are a good way to go.
Yeah. So from a legal standpoint, obviously the things to focus on, we talked about how they can make money, how they can save money, and we've talked about this, Angela, is like, look at your lease, right? See that, we talked about, unfortunately, I think business interruption insurance, that's going to be a fight for years between the restaurant owners and the insurance company, but try to work with your landlord in terms of maybe getting some rent abatement during this period of time, right? And review your lease and see what your obligations actually are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So is there anything I missed? I'm trying to think. I think we actually covered everything I thought we would cover, but
yeah, I think we did. Yeah. I don't know if you want to open it up for questions.
Well,
I mean, we're at 1 o'clock, so.
Yeah. So you want to get rid of that share screen so
Sure.
we can see everyone? Yep. And all right, everyone can unmute themselves if they want, and just let me know if you have any questions for any of us.
I don't really have any questions. I just want to commend everybody and a great job done. This was extremely informative, not just, for those of us who are restaurant owners, which I'm not, but people who just like to go to restaurants, because it's going to be a whole different world now.
Thank you.
All right, so most important thing, guys, right? If someone wants help, right, in terms of a restaurant owner, how can they reach you?
Well, if you have the playbook, our contact info is on every page. My website's cliffross.com, also cliffrossprints.com, and all our contact info, my email, cliff@cliffross.com. And I think I speak for both Angie and myself. We'd be happy to have a quick consultation for you, no charge, just to kind of see where you're at, get in the right direction. And if you don't have a playbook, please, Alan, you could forward one to please everybody if they haven't gotten one.
All right, great.
You can also request it. If you go to my website, there's a pop-up there. You just put in your email and it'll get sent to you directly. And my website is angelavendetti.com. So we keep it simple.
Yeah, we'll make sure that anyone who registered for this event, we'll do a follow-up. We'll give them the video, obviously, a lot cleaner than what the beginning is. And we'll make sure they get a copy of your playbook as well. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, Alan Nochumson, Nochumson PC. We can be reached at Nochumson, NOCHUMSON.com, or email us at contact@nochumson.com. Have a great day. Enjoy the nice weather outside. See you guys.
Thanks, Alan. Take care.
Take care. Bye.